Yo, I did not realize how, let's say, dare I say, annoying a lot of huge stands of the Marvel Cinematic Universe are. Like I completely underestimated it. I'm not gonna lie, I completely underestimated it. And I guess that's because I kind of find the enjoyment where I can with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I'd be a fool to not, look. The harsh reality is that for about a decade, they did a great job in developing some of their characters, and going up to Endgame, very least Infinity War. So kudos to them, right? And they've built this glorious universe with a lot of the characters that I've grown up loving and a lot of the characters that I cover all the time, right? But this whole fucking Spider-Man thing has been amazing. And it's really highlighting how I can't call them deranged. I guess it's not fair. Maybe that's a little harsh. But between boycott, Sony, I think a lot of people, at least in my honest opinion, overestimate this version of Spider-Man. Even if you compare and contrast with some of the other ones, it's not the people act like it's just the best goddamn Spider-Man ever, and it's really not. Tom Holland Spider-Man, it's less to do with him and more to do with how they've handled this goofy ass version of him, in which they basically replaced Ben with Iron Man, and he's clinging to Iron Man. And it's just weird, Iron Man sort of makes him with his suit and shit. Like, that's just a weird depiction of a flagship hero such as Spider-Man when he's above. He's a tier above Iron Man, and he's looking up to him. And that shit is weird when you consider who this character is. And for a normie that really doesn't understand that, I can see where you just put a guy in the skin and have him web shoot or web sling and, have this sort of emotional attachment going on. They can find some sort of good in that. And that's what the Marvel Cinematic Universe has done a great job of. And that's been their target audience. It's not been the guys like myself that are these uber, these nerds and we source material and we're knowledgeable on it. That's not really who the movies are made for. They, of course, draw from the source material, and again, for 10 years, they've done a great job. I mean, every single major arc has been from the comic books with some slight changes. If you go with, Ultron, Infinity War, all of that has been based on, they pulled it from the source material, and then they changed little parts of it, and some, I would argue, too much, but they're at least drawing some of that from it. And so that's there. They've done a decent job. It's not been perfect by any means. There have been some bad ones, bad movies there. But they've done a solid job in building this cohesive universe. And the appeal has been less about, all right, let's get some characters, let's reference the source material. In this day and age, I just think directors and producers are way too arrogant to do that, to pull the source material and not necessarily just stick to it verbatim, which I don't know anybody that expects that. But to draw a little more influence, I think that's too arrogant. They don't have it in them to just be like, hey, you know what? Let's do a good live action depiction, adaptation of something that has historically happened. I guess it feels like from a creative standpoint, this is why I say it's arrogance, because from a creative standpoint, they think they have to add their own little spice to it to leave their own imprint, right? And quite often it ends up being trash. But nonetheless, the appeal has been enormous. Not a secret, right? But god damn, man, I think people overestimate how good this Spider-Man is. I'm not losing no sleep because they don't get to use the character. Like I've said, I think they'll come up with a deal or something. But as of right now, it looks like he has to some way exit the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I agree. I don't care what your fucking goofy ass memes say or how much you dislike the movies other movies, if there's one character that can exist on its own without the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's Spider-Man. It's arguably the most popular Marvel superhero. Maybe that's not even arguable, right? So if it's one character that can do it, it is him. But I think that, at least from what I analyze, it's less to do with comparing it with the other movies that have other Spider-Man movies, and more to do with them clinging to the idea that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has to have the Spider-Man. They've loved the Spider-Man. They've grown emotionally attached to the Spider-Man, so they want him to exist, right? And so in doing that, they have to trash everything else. They have to make other movies be worse than what they feel like they actually were, in comparing and contrasting them. If you feel like you have to do that, and I think a lot of people are being unfair with those other movies that Sony has put out of those Spider-Man. A lot of those have been more accurate than the ones that we have now, and they know they didn't have this glorious big universe, and I think that's what a lot of people don't credit it for, is that they're looking at it, all right, well, it's this massive universe that we've grown attached to, and Spider-Man got put in it, and so they're clinging to that and unfairly judging the ones that were really Spider-Man existing on his own, doing his own thing. And I think that certainly is unfair, but I think the emotional cling to the Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe has a lot of people being very, very irrational in terms of this hero possibly standing on his own. But I get it. If you've grown emotionally attached to this character, you want to see them. You would hate to see him out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, me personally, and this is my honest opinion, I think this fucking version of Spider-Man is a fucking goofy, clinging to. They got all these damn goofy tokenized characters between Flash and MJ or what have you, and then he's so much younger than everybody. Me personally, would prefer a more adult version of Spider-Man if he is to exist alongside some of these other characters. Even if he's a young adult, I would prefer him to be not a guy that's looking up the fucking Iron Man. Anybody that's knowledgeable on the comics knows that's kind of weird. It's one thing for them to be cool with each other. It's another for him to be just like replacing Uncle Ben. That's just weird, yo. That's just really weird. So I ain't losing no sleep, and I'm not gonna boycott. If Sony puts out a Spider-Man movie, I go check it out. Hell, I went to see fucking Captain Marvel. Come on, man. Like, if it was a movie that I was gonna boycott, it was gonna be Captain Marvel, and I, as a critic, made sure I saw it so I can honestly analyze it, which is what I do. I'm not gonna just criticize something just to be criticizing it. I would actually like to see it, analyze it for myself, for my own opinion. But if I saw that damn movie, what the hell make you think I wouldn't see a Sony version of Spider-Man, which I didn't hate in the first place, right? But if it's one thing that I've learned is that, holy cow, these guys really these normies are emotionally attached to this character, bro. They are emotionally attached to this character, and I didn't realize how annoying. I'm looking on my Twitter, I'm like, fuck, I gotta log off. This is unbearable. Like, I didn't know it was like that. I must have been lost in the sauce. And I guess in me finding some sort of, so I find good in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so maybe that was clouding my judgment. And I didn't realize how weird some of these guys are that are real hardcore fans and stans of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That is. I love it, but not like that. You know what I mean? And I don't think it's like this perfect thing that they just should have the rights. Look, man, Disney has been I think that's what's weirding people out, is that Disney has acquired all of these characters and franchises, right? And now they lose one, right? Essentially. And I think that's throwing some people off, because people think, oh, it's fucking Disney. They just have rights to these characters. And, it's not been like that. It's more so Spider-Man was on loan. You got a little cocky, and it backfired. But I think a deal will be reached at some point. If it's not, whatever. Like, I'm not going to lose no sleep. I ain't going to boycott Sony. I'm going to go see the goddamn Sony. And again, I would prefer that over what the hell they have now. Like, this goofy ass Spider. And that's not a diss to Tom. That's more of a diss to the writers, because they set him up for failure. But I can do without the tokenizing and the direction that they're going in. I'm like, if that means that we don't get some old weird shit happening, and y'all know where I'm going with this, I'm not going to mention it because I don't want them to demonetize my shit. But there's been talks of making a change, right? some people wanting a little bit of a change to Spider-Man that I ain't fucking with, and I know a lot of other people ain't with, and it's unnecessary, right? But even the normies, they always have to ruin characters. So I ain't boycotting shit. That's what it ultimately boils down to. So it is what it is.